Hello, Global Theater. My name is Gerry Fialka. Today is January 7, 2026. Want to thank Rob Grant and his amazing podcast. I'm probably wrong about everything. Please subscribe. Want to introduce and welcome our guest today, Dan Erdman. Is that how you pronounce it, Dan?
You pronounce it Dan Erdman.
Erdman.
Yep.
Where are you calling from?
I'm here in the office's Media Burn Archive, right in the middle of Chicago, Illinois.
First question is, what is the best thing for a human being?
What is the best thing for a human being? My goodness. I don't know. It feels very presumptive to answer that on behalf of the human race. I would say the best thing for a human being, I think, is activity. I think about like, what's the best thing for like a cat or a dog? What's the best thing for my cat is to give them a place where they can be, where they can do their cat stuff. They can chase and hunt and do all of that within an environment where they, won't get run over by a truck or something. So I guess the equivalent answer for what's best for a human would be to be able to pursue themselves through their activity of creating themselves and doing the work that they're supposed to be doing. Whatever.
Really good. Really good. And I'm glad you laughed because we're here to have fun. So what's your favorite form of information? How it comes into you?
Form of information. Favorite form of information is probably language, probably written language more than anything. Reading something is where I kind of feel like I can ingest something. I can sort of go at my own pace. I can look at how it's being structured, how it's being fed to me. You could do that with other, obviously, given the work I do, I do that a lot with the moving image. But I don't know, something about reading feels like the most natural way for me to internalize something.
I agree. Did you become a reader, one, because your parents told you, two, they did it as an example, or three, on your own?
The first two, definitely. My parents are both teachers, so they were very big on trying to get me up to speed on basic sort of scholarly tasks as early as they could. So I was reading by age 3, but I have a distinct memory of they read on their own and continue to do so to this day. But I have a distinct memory of not being able to read, of being young enough to not have learned that yet, and seeing them sitting there reading and just being annoyed, just seething to myself at that they were able to do this activity that I couldn't. And it very much motivated me to be a receptive learner probably at that young age.
Really good. You're concise and articulate. I appreciate that. Why do you think humans collect or gather information?
Why do they collect or gather information? I don't know. It's good for me professionally. I think probably some of that is innate and instinctual to a certain point. I suppose probably it was useful to our primitive ancestors to be able to learn things about the world and to put that information together in such a way that they could access it and pass it on to their forebears or whoever their descendants or anybody else, just to sort of understand how to live in the world. So probably I would suspect, and I don't have any particular expertise in this area, but I would suspect it was something that was useful to us at a certain point in the past, and that those of us inherited from that. In the modern day, there's practical uses for that as well, but I don't know. Yeah. It just seems like something humans do.
It's amazing because the next question you answered within the first sentence of answering that one, and I ask it anyways, and I'm in a quandary, and maybe you can advise me, because this is the one question that 99.9% say the same answer. And it is this need or want to collect information more innate or more invented?
And I think it's innate, and I think the means of doing it are invented and artificial and have been refined over the years. But probably at the bottom.
Do thoughts create emotions?
Do thoughts create emotions? I kind of suspect that the boundary between thought and emotion is maybe not so hard and fast. That perhaps, a lot of times you can be overcome by a strong emotion that can then be sort of winnowed into a thought, that you become overpowered by some sort of melancholy or joy or something like that, and then once you have time to sit with it, you can kind of understand what its origin is, how it's affecting you, why it's affecting you. So I suspect that thought and emotion are in some sense related, are in some sense, maybe an emotion is can be articulated into a thought. I don't know if it can work the other way. I suppose maybe it could.
Yeah. Well, fill in the blank, Dan. I don't know what I think until I
don't know what I think until I write it down.
Yeah. That's what Joan Didion says. I don't know what I think until I write it. McLuhan says, I don't know what I think until I say it.
Mm-hmm.
And humans think without language.
Can humans think without language? I don't know how we would know if they could. How would they tell us?
How would we know? But I mean, a lot of these are, first of all, I want to make it clear. Saying I don't know and I can't answer that is totally valid. I'm not trying to get you. And it's also, I'm for your hunch or your guess.
Mm-hmm.
Some people go, well, that's a neuroscientist question. I says, well, no, what's your hunch or your guess? Yeah.
Can people think without language? I suspect people can, some sort of mental experience certainly is occurring. But I don't know. I suspect that language, and this could be a chicken or an egg thing, I suppose, but like language plays an essential role in kind of structuring your thinking to make it, literally legible, to yourself. So like, did I think before I could speak? I suppose. I reacted to stimuli. I imagine I know, saw what was going on, but probably the reason probably nobody can remember any of that is because there was no way for your mind to put that together in a way that could be retrieved even by the biological mechanism. And I suppose the biological mechanism and the psychological mechanism are probably related in that sense.
A really good distinguishing, because Chomsky says language is not just words. It's a culture, a tradition, a unification of community, a whole history that creates what a community is. Dan, what do you do when language doesn't work? When language breaks down, what do you do?
When language breaks down, probably panic, because that's again, really, it's kind of how I make sense of everything. When language breaks down, I play charades or something like that, I guess. Or I guess the only kind of, when I think of when is language broken down for me, is I try to think of when I've studied various languages that aren't English. I've tried now a couple different ones, and there, of course, inevitably it breaks down, because you're learning and you're like, you forget vocabulary and you forget how a little piece, how do numbers work in this and whatever. So I don't know, probably just a lot of sputtering and like pointing and or like an American, I just speak English loudly and slowly in the hope that'll get it across.
That's funny. I was in France once, and I says, "Where's the parlez-vous anglais?" And they go, "Oui." And then I go, "Where's the subway?" And they go, "Slower."
Yeah. Yeah.
But I love yours. Panic, sputter, loud, and softly. Those are really good and honest. But you already touched on this. I'm going to ask it anyways. Your observations of humans in general, are we more thinking beings or more feeling beings? Now, I know you already made this clear. We invented the words thinking and feeling, but you probably can't separate them, but we think we can because we invented the words. But right. Just your hunch or your guess, your observations.
Mm-hmm. Are we more thinking or more feeling? There's a human capacity to sort of lose the balance, I guess, in either direction. Although I don't know. I suppose I guess I don't tend to think that people are too, in my everyday interactions with them, are overly cold and cerebral and calculating. I tend to concern myself more with the ones who go the other way. But more thinking, more feeling. Again, yeah. I mean, I guess I'll stick with my old answer, which is that, you know, thinking and feeling are kind of the same thing to a certain extent. And I think a lot of thinking is probably just post hoc rationalization of why we're right to feel the way we do about whatever it is. So
very good.
They inform each other.
Because Bridget Bardot just died, and I always use this quote of hers, and now I feel like, man, I shouldn't, because she had some
great quotes. Yeah,
she had some really weird, bad, things. But her quote was, "When I make love, I don't think." And I'm like, good luck. How do you turn your brain off? You're doing this sensuous thing. And people who meditate go, okay. People meditate go, now think about not thinking. And there's a car on my street with a bumper sticker and it says, don't believe everything you think. And I'm like, well, you could say, don't believe everything you feel.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. But good advice in both cases, I'd say.
Yeah. Two from Alan Turing in the 50s. One, is thinking a function of the soul?
Is thinking a function of the soul? Is thinking a function of the soul? I tend to think, I guess depends on what he means by soul. I would tend to think that the soul, or like the personality, is just, I don't think it's really a thing. I'm not a big believer in somebody having a true self. I think a lot of that is sort of a coherence that we assign to the thoughts and actions and feelings both of ourselves and of other people. So is thinking a what do you say, a function of the soul?
Yeah.
I would say no in that regard. I think that, the soul is just sort of the label we slap onto something to give it coherence.
Yeah. Really good.
Helps.
Really good. I appreciate that. The second Turing question is, can machines think?
No.
Good. Do you more pursue happiness or more pursue meaning?
Happiness or meaning? Do I more pursue happiness or more pursue meaning? I mean, I guess I would say meaning, probably. Feels right for some reason, just through the various work that I do. And I tend to get, I don't know, I mean, I guess I'm interpreting happiness as just sort of like idle bliss, which is not really my thing. I tend to sort of drive myself to stay busy in some endeavor or another. So I don't know, that for some reason feels more like meaning than happiness. But it makes sense, so.
Well, I got the question from Viktor Frankl's book, Man's Search for Meaning. He says happiness doesn't tend to last, meaning tends to last.
Okay.
So does the brain more detect consciousness or create it? Like, is consciousness there bubbling away and we're more so detecting it or more so creating it?
Is the brain creating it or detecting it? Well, if consciousness and the brain are not congruent to a certain point, then what is it that's detecting consciousness? That just sounds like you're drawing another box around consciousness. I guess I'm inclined, I'm a pretty strict materialist on that point, so I'm inclined to think that consciousness is some sort of emanation from the biological process going on. So if that answers it.
Yeah. What's faster, speed of light or speed of thought?
Ooh, speed of light or speed of thought? Gosh. I'll say speed of light because it's taken me a while to think of a good answer for that. So
no worries. Audre Lorde, the poet, said you can't dismantle the master's house using the master's tools. Her colleague Yvonne Rainer says you can if you expose the tools. What new tool do you suggest? And it doesn't have to be tangible.
Oh my goodness. New tool do I suggest? What new tool do I suggest? What am I attempting to accomplish? Am I trying to?
Well, that's good. You're answering a question with a question, so you win. That's what this series is all about. But really what I'm asking is, what tool do you most gravitate towards? Because I open some of these questions with cute quotes. It doesn't mean you have to apply them. It's basically you put the questions in the context you want. But that's basically, you don't have to apply the word dismantling the master's house, you can, and you don't have to apply the word new. It's really just what tool do you most gravitate towards?
What tools do I gravitate towards? Man, I guess I would say language, because it's sort of my other job that I've given myself is writing and researching. I've come up with a book. I put out a publication and called Headclog, which you can order from me directly. It really is sort of like in the last 15 years, 20 years, I've looked at writing as like a challenge to try to, it's something just to get better at the mechanics of it, but also just to really, again, like you said in the beginning, to kind of know what I think about things.
What year did Headclog come out? What
first issue of Headclog came out? It came out in 2023, but it was not called Headclog. It was called Let's Go Stag. It was there to promote my book, which is also called Let's Go Stag. But then I got tired of writing about that, and so I just called it Headclog, and I just put out a new issue last month.
Oh, so that's not a book; that's a magazine.
Right, it's a little fanzine I put out. Just
fanzine. But Let's Go Stag: The History of Pornographic Film is an actual book that came out what year?
It's a book I wrote that came out in 2022, I believe. 2022.
Yeah, congratulations! What a great topic. I know you covered it deeply in that Cine Club podcast. Oh, yes. So I don't want to go into it too much, although I'd want to because it's so intriguing. When I showed films in Ann Arbor, Michigan, I remember showing A History of the Blue movie.
Oh, yes.
Came out in 1970. What a mind-blowing film. It was like, we're on college campus. It's like, we can legitimately show porno.
I know. Good times.
It was amazing. So I really loved your deep dive and all that. And I do. We'll probably touch on a little, but I do appreciate I recommend people to go to your Cine Club podcast because you really suss that out beautifully. Okay. So I asked people this tool question, and it is amazing because I wanted to say this. These great filmmakers go into Ann Arbor Film Festival for 30 years. Bill Brown and maybe Ben Russell, he was a Chicago guy. Anyways, these guys are great experimental filmmakers, and they're basically guys who go to Yale and Harvard to study semiotics, and they go, I can't do this with the words, I got to do it with film. And so, you're like a film dude, but your main tool is language. So I really appreciate what you're doing, and being able to articulate it. But I asked people this tool question, and then someone said, what about a toy? So what's a toy you gravitate towards?
Oh boy. A toy that I gravitate towards. Gosh. Toy that I gravitate towards. Maybe I have some of them all around me. It feels in some sense that I get the work that I do day to day, which is video archives. As you can see here, I've got all these, I'm surrounded by decks and tapes and magnetic media, detritus everywhere you look. And I feel sometimes as though, even though that's the job that this is where I make my living and is my main sort of professional thing, I feel sometimes that I get more, the satisfaction I get from it is more akin to play than work sometimes.
Oh, and that is cool.
It's a lot of times it's solving like some sort of technical puzzle, whether it's like, why is this file not working right? Or why is this machine broken? What's going on? And so it's like, it really is like a sort of a game I'm playing against, like a broken deck or like some technical process I can't quite figure out. And then I just have to figure out how to proceed step by step by step, cut off this possibility, cut off this, and finally get to it. And when it's at its best, I mean, sometimes it's just frustrating and you feel like you want to jump off the Willis Tower, but when it is at its best and it's working, it really does feel like a game. So I guess I would, the videotape infrastructure writ large.
Yeah, really good. Because I really dig seeing that 3/4 inch video player right there. Because I have some 3/4 inch videos that really big problems. But really, a quick aside, did you ever repair or play a Pixel 2000 camera?
I've never laid hands on any Pixel Vision.
Yeah,
unfortunately.
Anyways, I'd love to talk to you about that someday. So what do you worry about when you go to bed at night?
Usually trying to get to sleep. I've been an insomniac my whole life.
Yeah.
And again, that's another one of my earliest memories is like laying in bed when I'm a kid, like, I'm just not tired. I don't know what I'm supposed to do. So I don't know. And it's not because of worry. I don't usually, my wife sometimes, is like, how'd you sleep? Not so good. Oh, what were you worried about? Well, nothing really. I just couldn't fall asleep.
Yeah.
I don't typically get too anxious. I mean, I don't know. I'm old enough now that maybe I think like, I hope I wake up tomorrow, but, generally, I'm just counting sheep,
Yep. McLuhan learned from Ezra Pound, the poet, that artists are the antenna of the race. They're broadcasting and detecting the hidden psychic effects of our inventions.
Mm-hmm.
So we might learn how to cope with what we don't like about our inventions. So I asked you the question Marshall probed his whole career. Why do we ignore the hidden psychic effects of our inventions, even though the artists are broadcasting them to us?
Ooh, man. All right. Why do we ignore the hidden costs of our inventions? Even though our artists are broadcasting them to us, I wonder the extent to which well, I don't know. I guess that would be a pretty twisted trail, perhaps, to figure out how artists now are doing that. But as to why we ignore the hidden costs of our inventions, I don't know. I suppose, and this might be more true in the United States, perhaps, but certainly during my lifetime, if we're talking just in like terms of narrow technological progress, that's often sold to us as something that doesn't have a downside. There are no costs. What are you talking about? And I think that people are, I'm not exempt from this either, but just human nature is to, if everything's going fine, is not to sort of think about like what's around the corner, what's going, what is this? How am I getting a free lunch? What's going on? But I don't know. And maybe that is a failure of the artist. Maybe they're not doing a good enough job of making this sort of dilemma clear to us as a dilemma.
That's really good. No one takes that. Most people go, because we're lazy, we're too busy, or blah, blah, blah. But you took it the other way. Well, maybe the artists aren't doing their job good enough.
Yeah. Never told me anything.
Just give me a little duct tape and a banana, and I'll cap it, cha-ching, man. But do artists have moral obligation?
No. Only to no. Only the ones that they choose.
Yeah, there's no right or wrong answers to any of these questions, but that one you got right. But everybody. I mean, 80% of people go, yes, we all have a moral obligation. It's like, no, artists are here to fuck your shit up, so you'll see something different, maybe.
I mean, artists have moral obligations, in the course of their lives. But I would say, in terms of their work, that's anarchy.
Yeah. Are you more afraid of new ideas or more afraid of old ideas?
More afraid of new ideas or more afraid of old ideas? I mean, I don't know, man. New ideas, that could be anything. Who knows what's I am one of those people that's I guess kind of a pessimist and a tend to like look for the cloud in the silver lining sort of thing. So I guess I've probably become a little bit more skeptical and reactionary in my senescence here of a lot of new ideas, simply because I don't know. I mean, I a lot of times I just look at new things and trends and rhetoric and arguments in general as sort of guilty until proven innocent. And I'm not saying that as something I necessarily endorse for everybody, but it's a tendency I guess I have to say I admit I recognize in myself. Old ideas, I figure I feel like those are out there. I can kind of grasp them. I can research them. I can see what's out there about them. I don't know. Except for my new ideas are good.
Yeah, but it's really interesting what you said, to put in the context of me as a dumpster diver. I can dumpster dive 16 millimeter films. You know, being in Venice, it's like in the industry, people throw out 3/4 inch videos, 35 millimeter film. And, you know, I give it to my archivist friend, and, you know, he can, and that's amazing. And that's what Snowden Becker taught us so well, is you don't destroy your masters. And everybody goes, oh, just digitize it. Well, if I dumpster dive a thumb drive, then it's harder to be able to play it. But there is a funny advantage. I had audio cassettes have come in those plastic, you know, cases for years. And there you go. And I've dealt with that in Pixel Vision for 35 years. But it's also, and previous to that, I still have my first audio cassette I got in the late 60s, and I digitized it, and I can still listen to it, and it might still play because it's stored in a good archive.
Yeah.
But this this audio cassette I had of my wife's mom's interview, we gave it to this media center at Otis, and the guy used AI to get rid of the hiss level.
Oh man.
And it was just like mind blowing. And it did, you know, I was like, whoa. I was sort of like happy that I didn't have to hear the hiss level. But it was like, you know, anyways. Can you conjure up your earliest memory ever, or one of them?
Oh boy. Earliest memory. Probably the earliest I could swear to. Ones I think of, the earliest one I can think of, I think, is my great grandpa's funeral.
Wow.
My mom's grandpa, who I must have met, but I don't recall him alive, but I do remember him laying in his casket.
Wow. Is memory more a curse or more a blessing?
Is memory a curse or a blessing?
Yeah. Is it more a curse or more a blessing?
Well, I would have to say probably blessing. Again, I'm probably professionally obligated to say that since I'm sort of in the memory business. But I mean, it's certainly a means by which, you know, you can ground any sort of, you know, new information, new experience, new, you know, to assimilate it into memory, both individually and collectively writ large and everything like that. I think that's the only thing that really gives any sort of meaning or context or value to whatever might come up. But that said, I tend not to reflect or ruminate on my own past very much. So I don't know. I'm not living my politics, I guess.
Yeah. Well, I appreciate your articulate and concise, and I'm having a lot of fun and learning. So I appreciate this. So tell me someone within your immediate family who had an impact on you, and what specifically was that impact?
Oh, wow. Immediate family. Both my parents, but I guess for the purposes of this, I'll say my mom, just because she, you know, taught me how to, you know, read and write, and how to, again, a lot of what I've gotten from language and reading and that sort of thing has come from her. She was always, you know, writing her own stuff. She was a teacher, like I said, a high school teacher. And she also, you know, would take classes during the summer to get like back then. If you took summer school classes at like a university, you could like it could jack up your pay, you know, stuff like that. So she would be writing papers during the summer and would ask me to edit some, you know, to look over and proofread at a time, and that sort of helped me to kind of think of language as something like that you can kind of like manipulate and mess with. So, you know, that, and just, you know, both my parents were good at sort of teaching me stuff about the world. Like my mom was a history teacher, so she taught me a lot about that. My dad was a science teacher, so he taught me a lot of science stuff. So it just they both just sort of got me in the habit of curiosity. And Beautiful. That's something that I value very much from them.
Really good. Now, the same question outside your immediate family, someone who had an impact, and what was the impact?
Oh boy. Much larger cast of characters to pick from. Somebody from outside my immediate family. Okay. Well, he's on my mind because we just mentioned it, but I'll say Stephen Parr. He was a guy that much like you, I did some dumpster diving in the past. I started out I found what got me into this field was one day I found 5,000 reels of 16 millimeter film in a dumpster. And I thought, well, this is too good to, I got to take this home. So I took it home, and then I was like, what the heck do I do with all these? And so I started, and this is before I was just working. I was a proofreader and an editor, just working at home. I was living out in the middle of in rural Illinois. Right. And so, but I figured I had to do something with this stuff. And so I just started like cold calling archivists and people, and he was one of the guys that I talked to just out of the blue. I met him at a conference actually that I just showed up to, and he's not the only one, but he was one of the people who, was like, took me seriously, even though I knew nothing, and answered a lot of, questions that were maybe kind of boring, and explained to me what he did and how things work, and gave me advice on who else to talk to and how to get into the field that I eventually got into. Yeah, he was just always like that sort of openness and willingness to kind of just bring somebody up who didn't know anything was very important to me. Again, and I've gotten that from a couple of people in this field, but it's something that I've tried to pay forward now as I've been here a while, and as other people come up to me and be like, what's this all about? How do I get involved?
It's really good.
So that.
Yes, he drove up to my house about a year ago and took 20 boxes of paper. He won't take media for San Francisco. For San Francisco. Yeah.
Oh, he's no longer with us.
Oh, you mean Stephen Parr from Oddball?
Yeah.
Oh my God, I got that mixed up with the other Stephen Parr from Oddball. He told. That's why I was wondering. I was thinking of another Stephen from San Francisco. Mm-hmm. No, Stephen Parr was an amazing friend, and he would. I literally got some elements for my films from him, and he didn't charge me because I would do events at his venue. Oddball was. But do you know the people who took over Oddball?
I don't. I was just talking about this with somebody a couple of months back, because I know after he died, God, somebody did tell me the story now, and I'm forgetting what it is.
I think they're doing well, but they just, when I asked them some questions, they seemed a little distant. But it is amazing, and thank you for correcting that. I had the last name wrong, but I asked Stephen Parr all these questions once.
Oh, really?
He's in my archive.
Oh, yeah. All right.
He was a special dude. I mean, he followed that woman who's the hugging guru,
I think so. I think I know you're talking about.
Yeah, I mean, big time. But he was he had so many quirky little things that he collected besides films. Mm-hmm. Because when we would go do events in San Francisco, he'd put us up. So we would stay on his couch where he lived, Oh, yeah, I got a lot of Stephen Parr stories, but that I'm glad you brought it here. Yeah, that's a really good one to bring up. Okay, so did your parents raise you a particular religion?
Yeah, I was raised as a Lutheran in the ELCA, the Evangelical Lutheran Church of America. Yeah, and I went to Sunday school and was confirmed and did the whole thing.
Do you pray?
No.
And if God exists, what would you like God to say to you after you die?
Surprise.
I've never had that one. I love that one. Most people go, "You did a good job." I goes, "Okay." Okay. Do evil people exist, or does evil use people as a vehicle?
Evil people exist, or does evil use people as a vehicle? I guess I'll go with the former. I have a hard time squaring evil as some sort of disembodied force outside of the actions of people.
But it's really the hidden question, Dan, is how do you advise someone to deal with an enemy? And I'll set it up. Alan Watts says, if you acknowledge your enemy, you empower them. Coppola stole from the mob and the samurai, keep your friends close and your enemies closer. JFK said, forgive your enemy, but don't forget their name. And Fellini says, I need an enemy. So it's a lot of thoughts. The basic question is, how do you advise someone to deal with an enemy? But first, how would you respond to Alan Watts? If you acknowledge your enemy, you empower them.
Uh, Boy, that's true to an extent, I suppose. That seems to me to be another way of, if you acknowledge your enemy as such, I guess then you're sort of agreeing to open hostilities at that point, which means, the initiative can go either way, I guess. That's which, depending on the situation, is maybe the way to do it. But
Yeah. But it's like the Chinese say, if you can't agree with your enemy, you'll be controlled by them.
Huh.
It is, what do we do with these enemies, or what do we do with people who fail us or do us wrong?
Mm-hmm.
Nassim Taleb said games were created to give non-heroes the illusion of winning. In real life, we don't know who wins or loses, but we can tell who a hero is. Gregory Bateson says, if the criminal gets caught, does he go, whoa, my criminal skills weren't up to snuff that day? Or does he go, oh, I did something morally and socially wrong? So the bottom line question is, does punishment work?
I guess I would say I believe people respond to incentives, and punishment can be one of those. And the threat of punishment can be one, and consequences in general, I guess, can be one of those.
Yeah.
Probably but at the same time, probably criminals wouldn't break the law if they thought, well, I'm about to get caught. So I suppose it probably depends. I don't know. It's interesting. I'm a fairly inhibited person in my own sort of disposition. So it's hard to put myself in the place of somebody who doesn't have that own sort of self-regulation to the point where they need the threat of punishment, maybe.
Yeah.
But I suppose probably certain types absolutely do. And for some, that's probably not even enough.
Yeah, I met a guy on Venice Boardwalk once, and he spent probably, 30 of his 40 years in jail. And I said, dude, what is it, HBO, cell phones, and the drug of your choice? And he goes, yeah, pretty much. So, I mean, it is a military, prison industrial complex, but most people go, no, punishment can work. But I like your two words. I love the word consequence. And I like the word threat. Does it help? Okay, so James Joyce was the first projectionist in Dublin 100 years ago. Volta Cinema. He basically checked out. He said, this is stupid. Why should I go inside a building and see a movie of a tree when I can go outside and see a real tree? Years later, Faulkner said, sometimes the best fiction is more true than journalism. Why do we have to recreate things in order to get them? Why do we have to go to a theatrical play of people acting out life? Why don't we just live life?
That's interesting. It's certainly been a compulsion of mine to, get as much of that recreation, watching films constantly, reading fiction constantly. But yeah, why not just do it? I think that, to think more of Joyce, though, Joyce was saying that he wasn't even talking about like something like a narrative. He was just talking about straight up representation in other media. So I wonder if it's, to even that photographic representation, if there's, I don't know, something about seeing a recreation of something, seeing it like, again, that raw reality just sort of put into shape. I guess that's your experience, is you going out into the world and doing a thing and then like turning it into, giving it a shape in your own imagination and own mind as you're doing it or as you reflect on it. But there's something to seeing something where that structure is already there, whether it's in terms of like a narrative or if it's like, even a selection of what's in a frame or a certain speed of cuts or something like that. Like that kind of already, I don't want to say digested, that sounds pejorative, but like already that raw experience put into some sort of an arrangement. I think seeing that kind of arrangement is pleasurable to people for some reason.
Really good. So I'm going to go more in this direction with you as a writer.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's where you're creative. I think you're probably very creative as an archivist too, but you've kind of, you know, did Media Burn get those 5,000 16mm films, or what happened to those?
No, Stephen Parr got him. He was
Oh my God, that's
because I moved out of my place. I moved to New York City, and you can't really carry around 5,000 16mm reels in New York. So him, a couple other guys. I sent a bunch to Skip Elsheimer down in North Carolina. I don't know if you know him. He's got a big film archive. But yeah, no, Stephen Parr took the vast majority of them. I just shipped them all. I boxed them all up and I shipped them off to him. So yeah, they went into the Oddball archive. They're still there.
Wow. Oh, that's super cool. So I mean, we could go into you as an archivist. You covered a little, but let's go to you as a writer. Okay. What was the tipping point? Your mom's teaching you, or your mom and dad are teaching you the beauty of literature, and you become a book person and a writer. Where's that tipping point where you go, I want writing to be my calling? Is it in high school or college? Are you studying journalism or creative writing? And then where is that tipping point where you said, yeah, go ahead?
No, it was fairly late. I I like to say sometimes the only thing I've ever really been good at is being a student. I really enjoyed getting to, get that stuff out of my system there by like writing papers and researching and, doing things like that. And I tried to scratch that itch. I, for a long time, thought I was going to be an academic. I was an undergrad in the 90s, and I was studying film. I was studying literature. I was studying language. And at that time, academia was at sort of a peak, I think, in the 90s, like a lot of things about life in the United States. And a number of people told me, like, what you ought to do, you ought to go to grad school and become a professor, because here's what's going to happen. All your professors, they're all boomers. They're all going to retire in the 2000s and 2010s. So there's going to be all these open positions for people to come in and just scoop up. And so I thought, oh, okay, maybe that's what I'll do. And I discovered quickly what actually happened is those guys retired, and then they just didn't shut down the department, So I did that for a little while, and then I just kind of got tired of it, just tired of the academic game. So I didn't do that. And then I just went and did other stuff that had nothing to do with writing or anything like that. I worked as state legislature for many years. And it was only when I went back to archiving school and back into the archiving world that I kind of figured out a way to sort of get back into writing and doing that sort of work that I liked so much in academia, spending all this time in libraries, looking stuff up and arranging it in some way that made sense, and like being able to take old historical information and say, see, look at this, here's a new thing I can observe about it. But it was through this sort of field. So like the book I wrote, Let's Go Stag, it's all about old stag films, which is something I started researching when I was in archiving school, because that started out as a project in school, basically as an archival problem. How do you make accessible material that you don't know anything about? Because you have a stag film, you don't know who shot it or where it's from or anything like that. But then as it went on, I got out of school, I was able to turn that, just kind of keep that project going. So really and everything I've written since, I've done like short, like booklet essays for Blu-rays, and I put out my zine, and I've done, just little bits of journalism here and there. But it's mostly been writing about the moving image and about film history and about videotape and about all this sort of stuff. So it really was kind of, I look at it as sort of the other side of the work that I do here in this office, is I can kind of research other stuff that's sort of related and write about it. And I don't know. So it was really, once I kind of found my footing professionally in this world, that I was able to then return to writing as
you're calling more. So your head clog is, how much percentage of head clog is fiction and how much is nonfiction? It's all your writing, or is it other people too?
It's other people too. It's
of your writing for head clog. Do you write fiction now?
I don't write fiction. No, I mostly just write. I'm more of a like historian, I guess. Amateur.
You're a nonfiction writer.
Yeah, but in Headclog and a zine, the nice thing about a zine is you can kind of blur those categories because it's just a zine. You can do whatever you want.
Yeah.
So like, yeah, a lot of times I'll be a little loose with
Right.
a story I'm telling. I mean, sometimes I'll try to be like this last issue, I wrote an article all about James Benning, not about his films, but about his record as a college baseball player. And I went and sourced everything and, you know, I calculated his ERA and, you know, how many innings he pitched and everything like that. And so that, you know, I'll source, but then like other times, again, in a zine, you can just tell like these sort of goofy, shaggy dog stories about something that happened to you the other day. And I don't know, sometimes I'll make it up completely. Sometimes it'll be basically true. Sometimes, you know, a little bit here and there.
Good. That fleshed out, because we could talk about James Benning for hours, but that's funny because when you started talking Stephen Parr, I kept thinking you were saying Stephen Polta.
Oh, right. Yeah.
Stephen, and it just, you know, because they're both San Francisco. I both encountered him over the years. And Stephen Polta told me two things about James Benning I'm curious you know. One is he tells his students in Cal Arts, okay, your assignment is to go and sit in a cop station, in a police station, and sit in the waiting room. And I thought, that is a great assignment. When I'm a filmmaker, I want to study. And the other one is go on this hill in, near the school and watch the sunrise and sunset. That was the assignment. And then the other, did you see the James Benning was in my first Pixel Fest too, 35 years. Yeah, he made a pixel. He made one of the greatest pixels ever. It's inherent to the pixel vision. So he's a great filmmaker. Filmmaker. He got away with murder because all he did was stick his camera on the front of his car and drive across America. It changed the Ann Arbor Film Festival. Everybody's like, that is so cool. It's like, it's a travel log. But I've seen him. And the other thing he does I love is he copied outsider artist paintings. He just it's like Hunter Thompson just typed out The Great Gatsby. Yeah. So he could learn how to write. Or, you know, as a training thing. And that's what James Benning says. How can I get into the head of like your guy, Henry Darger, or, you know, any of these outsider artists? I will just repaint their painting. Like, you know, I just copy it. Mm-hmm. So Benning's amazing. And did you see the Benning Linklater documentary?
Oh, the baseball one.
Yeah.
They talk about baseball a lot. I've seen bits of it. I never saw the whole thing. I actually got a file of it somehow, and I was kind of clicking through it. Yeah. I haven't sat down and watched the whole thing yet.
Sorry to go off on that. So
well, it's interesting you mentioned the, first of all, Henry Darger. Right over down the street is the Intuit Museum of Outsider Art, which has a lot of his stuff there. But also, you brought up the Hunter Thompson story. That's actually something I did as a kid. It was type out, not The Great Gatsby, but just like whatever novels. I hadn't heard this story before.
That's amazing. You did it. You didn't do it because he did it.
I'd never heard of Hunter Thompson at that point.
How did you come to that on your own? You just go, I'll just type this out.
It just sort of occurred to me to like,
that's
smart. And I couldn't have maybe formulated it like this, but like just to learn how like rhythm and you know, sentences work and stuff like that. Because I figured like, well, the author had to type this all out at some point. So like this is
you're smart.
Their action, you know.
I dumpster dive screenplays all the time. I go, you know, all you got to do is type out a screenplay and you'll learn how to do one. Yeah. You know, but you're a really smart guy, Dan. I really appreciate what you just said. There's one other thing I love to tell people is I have a theory that Henry Darger and Vivian Maier ran into each other. Ooh. And I wanted that movie to be made someday. Listen, that they had to. It's almost they're right in Chicago, and they kind of bum into each other.
Two big outsider artists, yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so a screenwriting teacher told me great film is when you can clearly see the intention of the maker. Kubrick says the opposite. Great art is when you can clearly not see the intention of the maker. What role does intention play in your creative process as a head clog writer? So, you know, it's sort of more nonfiction-y, but fudging a little sometimes. As that writing, what role does intention play?
What role does intention play? It's interesting you say that. I've been trying to kind of get away from being so fussy about everything. Because again, like it's just a zine. So to a certain extent, it's like a writing exercise, like just to sort of keep your muscles limber, and everything like that. But I do find myself, even just with a zine, which, you know, we should be in principle just crank it out. But like I find myself like getting all fussy about this and that and this detail and getting this and doing this just right. And for the zine, I'm trying to get into it more being the opposite of that. Of just like work as fast as possible, like get it out and get, you know, don't be sloppy and don't half-ass it or anything like that. But, you know, just to sort of get it out almost without thinking about what your intention is in some ways. To try to get past that. I've been watching a lot of Clint Eastwood films lately, and I'm trying to get into the Clint Eastwood mindset of, because he's like, you know, what, 96 years old or something. He's still directing films. He like puts out 2 films a year still. And it's just, you know, that ability to work fast like that and to not over labor it, I think is something I'm basically trying to do with the zine.
Yeah. A lot of musicians I interview say, don't think. And I'm like, yeah, right. That's highly romantic, because you've got all these licks in your head and all this language of music. How do you know, get out? Actually, it's what Miles Davis said to 2 of his guitarists, maybe more. Okay, play like you don't know how to play guitar. They're like, what do you mean? I've studied all my life. I've got my, you know, Holy Grail gig. I'm playing with Miles, and he's saying, don't play like, how do you do that? But it is amazing what you just said. It hit another chord. It's George Carlin. I worked for George, and we got a flyer in the mail, and it said, I'm trying to get more control over my spontaneity, which was a funny little thing. You're trying to let go, but you know, and so Duchamp says there's no art without an audience. How much are you thinking of your potential reader when you're writing your article?
It depends. I definitely do when I'm doing, like, you know, something like work, either if I'm working on another book or if I'm doing something for like another editor or something like that. I do try to think of like, okay, who's probably going to be reading this? What do I think they pardon me, what do I think they know? What do I think they're trying to figure out? What do I think, you know, what can I assume about them? What can I make like a offhand reference to that I don't have to explain about, you know, James Benning was an experimental filmmaker, or I could just say James Benning. But for my own thing, my own publication, I try not to think about it at all. I try to get it, or I'm trying to think less, you know, like just try to like put something out there. Maybe, you know, like again, James Benning's baseball article, like maybe somebody's going to see that and go like, this is the stupidest idea I've ever heard. I don't care. But maybe somebody's, you know, maybe a baseball fan, that's his way to get into James Benning. You know, I don't know. Like I'm just kind of throwing stuff out there to kind of see what people maybe react to, and being bored and thinking something is dumb is as perfectly legitimate a reaction as being writing to me and saying, this is the best thing I've ever read. You know?
Yeah. No, it's like David James taught me this great term, commodity cinema. It's not like you're writing to create a commodity. You're just writing. Mm-hmm. And that's what's
trying to,
that's what's important. So McLuhan says everything we invent extends some humanness. The knife and fork extends our teeth. Shuttering a camera extends our eyelid. And maybe even non-tangible, say religion or philosophy, extends consciousness. What does the writing utensil extend for you? What humanness?
Oh boy.
And whether it's a keyboard or a pen, what
the writing utensil specifically, what does it extend for me? I guess going back to again, one of the first questions you asked, for me, I guess it kind of extends my own thinking to myself as much as anything. Like it helps me to sort of, and this is part of the fussy part, like, you know, go through a lot of drafts and go through a lot of like circling around the subject. And it's usually only in writing something that I kind of discover what it is I'm actually what it is I actually think about something, what I'm trying to say, what my point of view is on something.
Yeah.
Well, for me, and it extends my voice because like other people could pick up what I read and read it.
Yeah.
Oh, that's interesting. But again, for the most immediate effect is it like acts as a clarifying agent in my own brain, and sort of forces me to lay down in black and white what it is I think I know and what I think I'm trying to put together. And without that, I'd just be confused a lot. And I think during my time when I wasn't writing a lot, I just felt like kind of duller and like less able to think as nimbly even as I do now, which, ain't what it used to be. But
no, that's good. This is a stupid question, but is thinking more innate or more invented?
Thinking. Mental processes, of course, are automatic to a large extent, but I'd say certain types of thinking I think there's a way that people systematize their thinking to a certain extent just by like social interaction and like living in the particular time and place that they do, through language acquisition, but also just through like various kinds of habits and customs and things like that. That's why if you go off to Europe or Asia or somewhere and you sort of feel, not only because if you don't speak the language, but just sort of, I don't know, various sorts of ways of moving around in the world sometimes take a minute to get used to if you're not from around there. So.
Yeah. I've interviewed this guy who went to school, grade school or high school with Bob Dylan, and then he became his road manager. And he told me he heard from somebody that what is the difference between narrative and storytelling? And before I tell you, is there any difference for you between narrative and storytelling?
If there is, I would tend to think of them more or less as synonyms. But if there is, I guess I might. It's the difference between like what happens and how you tell what happens.
So narrative is what happens.
I guess I'd go the other way, but I mean, it could be six of one.
You're saying storytelling is what happens?
Yeah, storytelling is what happens. He did this, A, then B, then C, then D. And maybe narrative is how you sort of, how you arrange those things to have like meaning and like to sort of ready them to be interpreted in the way that you're trying to set up, perhaps. Maybe that is a story. What it's about and how it's about what it's about.
Yeah, I really like that because here's what he said. The difference is narrative doesn't lie.
Ooh.
Now that's almost the opposite. You're right.
Yeah.
That's the opposite because you're saying, hey, storytelling is what happened. Narrative is how you embellish it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Wow. Okay, Hollis Frampton, you know this filmmaker probably. He said, narrative is born among the animal necessities of the spirit because we're waiting to die. So my question is, can you forget to die?
I sure hope I do. We'll pencil that one in. Can you forget to die? My goodness. I wonder. Can you forget to die? That's interesting. It is a thing as I get older and as I've watched other people get old and die. And even as I've observed in like animals dying, like pets I've had that died, that what I've noticed go for some people, even before they go physically, or what seems to be sort of a harbinger of their physical decline. And I'm not talking about people who die through like misadventure and stuff like that, getting run over by a bus or something, but like, people whose health fails them as they get on in years, that there is like a certain quality that tends to diminish, like a sense of like I'm going to say the will to live, but just like the intention with which they go about their work and their lives and what they do. And I it's like people, sort of a cliche. People say, like, they talk about somebody who retires and then they drop dead less than a year later because they didn't have some sort of task to perform that they could sort of like get, fire up the gas for every morning, So I guess maybe that's, I'm trying to, because when you asked that, I was thinking, like, forget to die. What could that be? What's some way I could work my imagination into what that could mean? And that is a thing I've both noticed in other people, and again, like, almost sort of felt it myself in some senses a little bit. Like, you just get a little, it's a little bit more of a struggle to kind of get yourself animated and ready to go, in some ways, than when you're in your 20s, and it just kind of comes to you even when you don't want it. But I don't know. And it's a thing. Again, my parents are quite old now, as you can imagine, and they're still fairly, like, active in that sense, both just like in the immediate sort of sense, mentally and physically, but like just in the way in which they remain engaged with the world and reality. And that's, I've noticed in some of my other relatives who are about that age, some of them are not not as engaged with the business of perceiving the world and just being in the world. And those are actually the ones that I kind of worry about a little bit more than I do my own parents. So
yeah, well, I think Ginsburg loves to say it, but he got it from the Middle Eastern philosophy. First thought, best thought. The first thing you said is, I sure hope I do.
Yeah,
I ask all these questions because I want people to answer them the way I think, and so it reinforces me. But I like when people answer things totally different, so it gives me the chance to suss out a bigger picture, of everything. But I like when people say, yeah, you can forget to die. But most people go, no, you can't forget to die. So I talked to Michael Apted 40 years ago, more than 40 years ago. Mm-hmm. And I said, why do rock video makers feel so obliged to edit fast? Most people don't know Abel Gance invented rapid montage in 1922, but it flourished in the 80s with MTV, to the point where Marty Scorsese said, I cut my films faster because of MTV. And so Michael Apted said, because we've learned to take in information faster. So I asked this question with the bias, Dan. Can we literally learn to take in information faster, or are we just brainwashed to believe we can?
Can we learn to take in information faster? I mean, there's probably an upper limit on that. And to the example of things being cut faster, the great film scholar David Bordwell, who I had as an undergrad, made it sort of a hobby of his and I would see him in both in classes, but then when I just go to the movies in Madison, sometimes he'd be there, and he actually carried in with him like one of those little tickers that like doormen have when people are going in and out of a building, like tick, tick, tick.
Yeah.
Tick. And he would do it every time there was a cut. He would go tick, 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 tick. And then at the end of the movie, he would go home and he would be like, well, that's 750, however many cuts. And he would figure out he actually would determine the average shot length of a film. And one of his projects was to do a historical comparison of average shot lengths across national cinemas and eras and stuff like that. And the thing so I suppose I would say, and I'll say why I think this, that we can maybe figure out a way to teach faster. And we can maybe figure out a way to communicate information that can go with the upper limit of what we can perceive. Because he found that it wasn't just cutting faster, is that after, if you cut too fast, you can become incoherent. But what he found in certain traditions and certain filmmakers, and was that the ones who did the best job of cutting fast were not necessarily just cutting fast. They were making their very quick shots, which sometimes last only a couple frames, making them easy to read, making them instantly legible, right? So you would have very clear blocking. You would have like the thing you were supposed to pay attention to would have a bright color or something like that. So what it was doing, it would be cutting fast, yes, but it would be like directing your attention in the frame in a way that was very quick and efficient. So saying like, look over here, or where's my finger? Look over here, look over here, now look over here, And so I think that fast is part of it. Fast is part of the way that you learn or teach something, but it also has to be, something else has to change in consideration if you're going to make speed your goal.
But to make it clear, you were very articulate there. I appreciate that. But to make it clear, you're saying is David still living?
No, he died 24, I believe.
Wow. Because I always wanted to interview him. Brilliant.
Yeah.
Brilliant. You got to study with him. But you're basically saying he probably would say, yes, you can learn to take in information faster. Is that what you're saying? Yeah.
Maybe. Yeah, it could. I think he would say in his specific case that maybe like a fast cut film can maybe train the viewer to a certain extent.
Train him, yeah, because Craig Baldwin said, yeah, Evelyn would read speed reading, but people that okay, you can learn to read faster. But the real hidden question is it literally possible for humans to multitask?
Ooh, I tell myself I can.
You tell yourself you cannot?
That I can.
You can, CAN.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
I tell myself I can. I mean, it's probably multitasking is just, a synonym for procrastination in a lot of ways as well.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I've probably, am affected by the same, psychological warfare that the internet and phones and everything has sort of waged on everybody else, in that I will find myself, like when I'm here, it's like, okay, I'm digitizing this tape, so I've got an eye on the screen to make sure the colors are equal and everything like that.
Yeah.
Oh, but I also got to like finish this inventory over here. Well, so I'll do this 2 things at once, and I check my email. It's been a whole 5 minutes, and
talk about email. I was interviewing this lady, and you can tell when someone's doing that. And I goes, is it literally possible to multitask? She goes, yeah, I'm checking my email right now. I was like, I was offended in a way. I was like, come on, man. Yeah. But it's all right.
Yeah. I'm not good enough for you. What? Yeah.
What do you think, your hunch or guess, was the motive of the cave artist?
Oh boy. What was the motive of the cave artists? Probably to, I don't know. They could have been probably, maybe they were multitasking, because it could have been like
that's a great answer.
Because it could have been they were doing it as sort of information, like this is the kind of wildebeest that we want to hunt, and this is what it looks like. It's got this kind of spotted pattern,
right,
and so forth. So when you see a creature that looks like this, that's what you want. But then also maybe there's probably some sense that's innate to all people to like want to reproduce and capture something in an image, and they didn't have photography back then or anything like that, or and so this was the way that they could do it, is say like, well, this is, the urge to sort of recreate this thing that I have some sort of desire for, that I'm driven to for whatever psychological reasons. For them it was probably pretty simple, that we want to eat the wildebeest, but or whatever. But probably it was feeding that sort of less practical motive as well.
Really good. What's more important, Dan, conviction or compromise?
Conviction or compromise? I think probably conviction, because conviction will, if you're aware enough of your own convictions, you'll probably know when to compromise.
Really good. Your observations of humans in general, is ambition based more on fear or more on joy?
Fear or joy? Is ambition based more on fear or on joy? I don't know. I'm trying to think of ambitious. It's like, I know a lot of sort of shiftless people, maybe, but I would. Joy doesn't sound right, because people who are like truly ambitious and truly driven, it kind of, maybe it is fear. It's like I think a lot of times people who are really driven for something are it's almost the activity itself rather than the thing you allegedly want to do. It's this sense of like performing busyness for yourself that seems rooted in some sort of fear of despondency and disintegration and dissipation and something like that, maybe.
T.S. Eliot said poetry's outing your inner dialogue. What language is your inner dialogue in?
My inner dialogue. My inner dialogue is often my outer dialogue, because I like to go for long walks and sort of talk to myself. Because you can do that now that they invented the Bluetooth piece. People think you're not a crazy person, but so I guess I'd say English in that case.
But it's more like, what form is your inner consciousness in?
Yeah. I really do tend to like verbalize it, even in my own thinking, even if I'm not speaking. It's interesting. I think I used to be more, it feels like I used to think more in pictures than I have in recent decades. When I was a kid more, I guess I was maybe more visually oriented. I used to draw more. I used to, even though everybody, I carry, like everybody else, I carry a camera with me at all times. I rarely take pictures. I don't feel that urge to capture something visually or to articulate it visually, really. And I'm trying to get away from that. I'm actually taking a drawing class at the School of the Art Institute here coming up soon to try to reactivate that, because that's like a part of your brain and a part of your imagination that I've really let go slack. And I feel like people should try to,
because you're a lit guy, but you're in the film and moving image world, and now you want to go to, that's really being comprehensive.
My inner dialogue or inner monologue has gotten it's too monolingual. I need to these other.
It's Abigail Childs, that filmmaker. Anyways, you should see her films. They're great. She did a film. She's an experimental filmmaker in New York. I says, "What language is your inner dialogue in?" She goes, "I wish I knew," which I thought was a great. Okay, so two of my film heroes, George Manueli, started the Ann Arbor Film Festival. His mantra is "Ignore yourself." Jonas Mekas is "There is no self-expression," and Cecil Taylor says, "I'm just a vehicle, and this stuff just comes through me." Is art making more self-expression, or more you're a vehicle for whatever technologies, environments, and cultures are dominant?
Man, in the last instance, I feel my inclination is more towards the latter. Because as I said earlier, I don't know as I believe much in the self. I feel like that's and I include myself in that, to the extent that you can do that. Like, I think that a lot of what our personalities and temperaments and dispositions are sort of, I don't know. There are things that, again, we kind of put a coherence around after the fact and say, this is what I think, this is what I believe, this is how I decide this. And I think that we're maybe more tend to the things that we do and say and think and build and write, I think, are to probably a larger extent than we would be comfortable admitting, are kind of driven by these sort of larger influences and large historical currents, and sort of animal psychological breezes and urges and things of that nature. So I don't know. I mean, it's for somebody who's like, again, a very fussy and controlling person sometimes with a lot of the work that I do. If I think about it, I guess it's probably maybe I'm like performing control against that to kind of deny that it's like I'm just a cork kind of bobbing around in the waves like everybody else.
But there's somewhere I'm curious, because I listen to Alan Watts a lot and I love him. He says everybody's trying to figure out who they are. If you figure out who you are, you're fucked. I mean, basically, that, to me, what you said about self earlier and just now reiterating, is kind of Eastern philosophy. Where did you get that "I don't believe in self" from? Where do you think the roots of that is? From what you read, or somebody taught you, or on your own?
Where did I get this? That's a good question. I'm not sure exactly. I don't think there was ever like a big light bulb moment for me with that where I was like, ha. I don't know. It's probably reading about, and I haven't read anything about Eastern mysticism. What I know about that could fit in a thimble. And I not a lot of other stuff either. I mean, I read a little bit of Freud in college and stuff like that. So maybe that's what kind of sent me on the way. The notion that like our personalities are sort of maybe almost an accidental emanation from some other thing going on that we're not completely conscious of.
Yeah, both Krishnamurti and McLuhan say violence is the human search for identity, which is sort of heavy. Like, why do you want to hurt other people?
Yeah.
Because then you can say, I'm this. Yeah. I'm Greenland and you're not, or whatever.
Yeah.
So the hidden question to the previous question is, can art making be egoless?
Ooh. Man. Yes. I think it can. I think because there's lots of art that, think of there's lots of art that was labored over, not that we don't know who the artist was, think of like medieval cathedrals that somebody, started working on a particular part of it, 15 years into the construction of the building, and then they died before it was completed, and their instructions were to like make this statue here the counterpart to this statue across the nave or something like that.
Yeah.
So I think that, I mean, I think it can be. I think there's certain types of art, especially stuff like that, like if it's a building or it has some sort of religious or cultic purpose or something, something like that, maybe that people can just go in and do their best job of, like it shouldn't feel like it was touched by human hands in that sense.
Yeah. It's like, I've studied Henry Darger since he became popular big time. And in the movie, which is very good, he says, the guy goes up to his room and says, dude, we found all this art in your room. You're dying on this, bed in the hospital. He goes, it's too late now. Now, no, I asked the producer of the movie, what do you think he meant? No one's ever said what we don't know what he meant, but it could mean I was going to destroy all this. Mm-hmm. I didn't want you to know that I did this, or it's too late now because you guys are going to make $1 gazillion off me and I ain't going to get any of it. Because, he did have a sense of what he was doing. Mm-hmm. Because he wrote the largest book ever created on the face of the earth.
Right. I guess that's maybe the true egoless artist, the stuff that you make that you don't show anyone, that you destroy.
But he didn't destroy, and that's him. And then that shrink art historian went and lived in his apartment for 10 years.
Yeah.
That's it's a phenomenal thing. Yeah. And all outsider artists to me, outsider filmmakers. I mean, this guy Damon Packard.
Yes.
Oh my God.
He's the only guy to make anything interesting with AI, I would say.
Oh my God. And I was the first person to show him in LA. And,
oh, really?
Yeah. And we're showing him at a bookstore. And this guy kept pulling out the LA Weekly and it said, this stuff is like Rabelais or, something else. And he kept reading the blurb, like, what is this film supposed to be about again? Anyways, his AI stuff is unbelievable. So, is perception reality?
I've probably not, but I think we should behave as though it was.
That's good. Behave. That is really good. Okay, let's go to behavior for a second. Utah Phillips says anarchy is making rules for yourself and not other people. Who's entitled to make the rules?
Ooh. Who's entitled to make the rules? Man, I suppose we all do that to a certain extent. Live in the Utah Phillipsocracy to the extent that we can, I guess. I don't know.
Well, it's let's go to this, because what Utah said is what the word freedom etymologically breaks down to: making one's own rules for one's own self. So what does freedom mean to you now?
Oh man, what does freedom mean to me? Interesting. Am I free? I guess. It's a big question.
Yeah, well, no, again, Dan, you win because you answered it with the question, am I free? That was a great answer.
Yeah.
You didn't need to say more.
Yeah.
But I asked for 90 minutes and we got about 10 more. Can you go longer, or do you got to go in 10?
No, I'm okay. I got nowhere to be.
Good. That opens it up. So that was really good. Now, tell me one major element of your creativeness as a writer, as an archivist, that's changed, and one major element that stayed the same.
Ooh. One that's changed and one that's stayed the same. What's stayed the same is as I in my creative labors as an archivist, in terms of they've been able to take the creative impulse in two directions. As in my creative labors as an archivist, whether that's working with some piece of machinery or again, like trying to solve a technical problem of some sort. I mean, there's more to what I do than fixing machines and solving technical problems, but that's the part that feels the most like play, and that has become the most sort of collaborative form of creativity that I've had. Because the problem that I have, and that a lot of other people that are in the same particular line of work that I'm in, is that you've got these old machines that are 50, 60 years old, and they break in ways that we don't understand how to fix anymore. And that the people who did understand how to fix are no longer with us, or they're, in the retirement home, or they just don't want to deal with it anymore. And so there has been a sort of grand cross collaboration going on between myself and like dozens of other colleagues in the field, to be like, how does this work? This thing broke like this. What do I do? How do I mean, my wife is in the same line of work. She works over at Video Data Bank across town doing the same thing. And a lot of our conversation back and forth during the day is like, do you know how this works? What should I do about this? Who do you know that knows about this? What happened? That sort of thing. And that has, that's brought me in touch with a lot of people that I've become very good friends with. But it also does feel like a collaboration on a big project, on a big creative endeavor. Not one, and again, like the cathedral, not one that's ever going to be completed in any of our lifetimes, but just like sort of a moving the ball down the field inch by inch. And I never have really had that collaboration before in any sort of work I'd done in my life. So that's changed. And what stayed the same with my other more projects that I do on my own is I've kind of, and maybe this is a way to accomplish it, is I've sort of used it as a way to maintain that solitude, because writing is pretty solitary.
Right, that's the solitude. Yeah,
it's been a way to like get, I often have a hard time writing at home. So I'll stay in this office sometimes right after hours.
Yeah,
or I'll go to a tavern, although that can be dangerous if you're right there too long, or I'll go to the library, or I'll go wherever, and that's been a way of sort of getting that intense focus, in solitude, and like just turning it over in your own mind. And probably that would be improved if it was maybe a little bit more collaborative, if I let people look at things and, instead of like ruminating over some particular thing that I'm trying to accomplish, show somebody else what I've got. Say, what am I doing? What am I not thinking of here? What's the obvious solution? But I don't know. I tend not to work that way
but that's you say the word collaborate. That's community, camaraderie. That's what it's all about. It's people. But it is, oh, well, I got to write by myself. And the guy who wrote the book that the Dylan film, Timmy Zimmy film came out. Yeah. Elijah Wall, he's written 15 books, but he's a musician also. And he says, yeah, music's made me social, writing's made me solitude. So, he and antisocial, because then I'm all alone. But but it is a funny thing. Now, Moshe Feldenkrais works with healing and movement. He says it's literally possible to identify a weakness and incorporate it to become a strength, rather than we're normally taught to overcome a weakness. Tell me a weakness you turned into a strength.
A weakness I turned into a strength. Oh gosh, I don't know. Most of my weaknesses have probably stayed weaknesses.
That right there is probably the fact that you can articulate that is the strength.
I guess maybe I'll go with that. Yeah, they've just become better weaknesses.
That's the Tom Waits line. But this Tom Waits line just kills me. I have a file on questions about suffering. If I can find it, it's funny. If I can dig it up, but it's basically, he says, oh, here it is. Because that's exactly what you said. Okay. It goes like this. I like beautiful melodies telling me terrible things. The world is a hellish place, and bad writing is destroying the quality of our suffering.
Ooh.
Like how can suffering have quality? It's recognizing it.
Right. It's giving it shape.
Yeah, giving it shape. That's the wording you use. Yeah. Okay. So let's see. Next one is, can anger be a productive emotion?
Oh, sure. Absolutely. It can yeah, it could be a great motivator. It can a thing. So I have all my life I've had a very debilitating fear of needles. Which is a very bad fear to have, because you're going to have to get shots and get stuck with needles and stuff at some point in your life. If you're afraid of heights, just don't go on top of tall buildings. But this one you kind of can't get around. And I've been a resolution I've had this year is to get over that, because it's very stupid. And what's been able to motivate me is this, because all my life I've told people like, oh, I don't like shots. I just for some reason they freak me out. I react poorly. I faint. It's bad. And people would say, I tell people that and be like, oh, well, that's too bad. But lately in the last couple of years now, you tell people like, oh, I don't like shots, and be like, oh yeah, me either. Suddenly there's this whole contingent of
they can relate to you. Yeah.
Right. It's a whole contingent of people out there whose whole thing is that they don't get their shots deliberately for, even stupider reasons than why I, don't like to do it.
Yeah.
So it's my contempt for these people, and my shock at realizing that I could be lumped in as one of them is actually motivating me to overcome that, and to try to push through this preposterous psychological barrier, the barrier that I've somehow constructed for myself, is my anger at them and their stupidity, and not wishing to be associated with them in any way, shape, or form. So anger has done a lot of good things for me.
Really good. What's the most significant difference between men and women, physical aside?
Oh my goodness. Oh man, the most significant difference between men and women. Physical differences aside, I don't know, man. I tend to, maybe it's just because of my age or how I've gone, I tend to think most non-physical differences are kind of overblown. I feel like in my life I've been able to socialize pretty equally with men and women.
Yeah.
Without feeling like I'm having to, code switch or something like that.
Yeah.
And it's, I mean, probably because, look at the field I'm in. Archives field, library and archives field, tends to be a lot closer to parity with men and women a lot. So I don't know. Maybe that's, I don't know. I'm going to say nothing of great consequence.
No, that's the question I want. I mean, that's the answer I want to hear. And a lot of people, but 80% of people go, females are more emotional, men are more logical. So I like when people go, there isn't. So I appreciate that.
Yeah.
These are 5 quick Alan Watts questions off the top of your head
right.
in just a couple words.
All right.
1, who started it all?
Who started it all? It's yet to begin.
Oh, wow. I've never had that. 2, are we going to make it?
Yes.
Where do we put it?
Where the sun don't shine.
Who's cleaning it up?
Who's cleaning it up? Archivists and librarians.
Very good. Is it serious?
Probably not.
Very good. I love that. Yet to begin. That is so good, man. I needed that one. I don't think I've ever had that. Okay. There's a line, Dan, that goes, you create what you resist. Bob Goldthwait, the comedian, morphed it into you are what you hate. James Joyce said, it's a curious thing how your mind is super saturated with the religion in which you say you disbelieve. And Louis Buñuel nailed it. He said, thank God I'm an atheist.
Yeah.
So any thoughts on this? You create what you resist. I'm not saying you, Dan, but one creates what one resists. Any thoughts on that?
One creates, you create what you resist. You create what you resist. It's interesting. I think it's probably true. It feels like it's a psychological phenomenon I've observed in a lot of people that, what it is, the thing that sort of preoccupies their imagination and that they are, is something that they're allegedly against, that they're allegedly working against for some reason, is also something that they see in themselves. The big cliche one is like the homophobe who's secretly a gay guy, but like, I suppose there is something to people's sort of creative labors, whether it's like making some sort of object or even just like creating their own personality through their actions, throughout the day, that is in some way like an articulation against the thing that they worry they really are. I don't want to not get my shots because I don't want people to think I'm one of these idiots, but if that wasn't a credible fear somewhere, then I could just blow it off. But
right. You're saying you're not anti-vax, but right. you were. Yeah. So if you go, I'm scared of shots nowadays, people go, you're anti-vax. Oh my God.
Yeah. Right. No, that's what I'm worried about. I don't want to be in there, But yeah,
I never got flu vax.
Really?
And when COVID came out, me and all my fucking hippie friends, we go, we're gonna get a vax finally, and so we all caved in. Good, it helped, and now this super flu, and then I never got a flu vax after COVID vaxes. My doctor was saying, I'm 70. Yeah, my doctor says, dude, you should get a flu vax. If you were my parent, I'd say get it. I got the flu and I never get sick. I got the flu a couple times and I just went to my doctor and says, give me the flu vax. She's going, okay, but it doesn't matter. It's already changed over. And my friends, all my friends have been knocked out by this flu for the last month or so. It is like really scary. And it's like, now it's like, oh my God, what if I would have gotten the flu vax earlier, would it helped? And it's not that I'm anti-science. It's just like, oh no, you think you can get away with it,
Right. Like, I'll just pound some vitamin C. It'll be fine.
Yeah. Minus Pauling said, okay. How do you find How do you find peace of mind?
Ooh, I'm not big on peace of mind. I don't like it. I don't like I can't go on so my wife's mom lives down on in South Texas on this island on a vacation spot down in the Gulf. And it's really lovely. It's, you know, palm trees, and there's a really lovely beach there and all that. And it's great to go down and visit for, I think, for about like 5 days tops.
Yeah.
Because like I can only hang out on the beach for so long. I can only like relax and like take it easy for so long. I start to get suspicious of myself for some reason if I
Yeah.
if it gets too tranquil up here, you know. I need something to chew on after a while. So I don't know. Maybe I mean maybe that is maybe it's that rhythm of working and staying busy, and like there is a kind of, you know, when I'm deep in the guts of this machine trying to figure it out, there is sort of a kind of calm where you're just like you're going.
Oh,
yeah. It doesn't feel intense. It feels more like it's like listening to a baseball game. Like something's happening, but it's, you know, nice and steady. It's nice and calm, so.
Well, you remind me of what I see in great artists. They usually, like Charles Ives, I'm going to sell insurance and make all my money, but then I can do all my art, not pressurized to make my money from my art. So then I can go do my zine as I want, and I'm not pressured like, oh my God, I need to sell these so I can pay the rent. And then, but at the same time, you found a cool gig, you know, that you can find.
I've always admired. I think it was it Wallace Stevens, who worked at the insurance company his whole life. Yeah, like
Wallace Stevens.
Like there's been this whole sort of, or Wallace, you know, people are saying, oh no, nobody can afford to just be an artist anymore, and I sympathize with that to an extent, you know. But like at the same time, maybe there's something to being rooted in that sort of having to, you know, punch the card a little bit, like that can kind of like ground your own practice a little bit.
There's two quotes. Al Flipside, don't sell out, sneak in. And the other one is Paul Schrader, you know, wrote Taxi Driver. The job of the artist is to attempt to sell out but fail.
Yeah.
Now that one sounds real nice, but in a way it's almost the opposite. My art is so pure that I tried to sell out but I failed. It's like, give me a break.
Right.
Okay, Dan, you're walking down the street today and you met yourself as a 12-year-old. What would you say to your 12-year-old self?
Oh, man. I would say follow your instincts and buy stock in Apple.
I do get that second one often. Okay, which way should toilet paper come off the roll, over or under?
I'll say over. That way.
If a publisher was going to release your autobiography off the top of your head, what would the title be?
Ooh. Oh man. Osama bin Laden, my role in his capture.
I was going to say, Let's Go Stag. That is such a great title.
My friend Dan Kanemoto came up with that one. My friend Dan Kanemoto, who's a filmmaker in Los Angeles, came up with that. I have to credit him anytime it comes up.
That is a great title. But I love Osama bin Laden. Okay, they want to scent the glue in the binding. What smell?
I'm sorry, one more time.
The publisher wants to scent the glue in the binding of your autobiography. What smell?
Gasoline.
Oh.
Smell have always been my favorite smell.
Oh my God. If a statue was built in your honor, where would you want it displayed and what would it be made of?
Ooh, I would want it put up in Stewart Park in Wausau, Wisconsin, which is my favorite park in my hometown. And what would I want it made of? Probably some kind of, I don't know, could you make, they mine graphite and bauxite around there. So if those are good statue making materials, I'd like to see somebody give that a shot.
Yeah. Yeah. Not moldy 3/4-inch video cassettes.
maybe that's the true material legacy.
But dude, that's the major question. I had 20 years of PixelVision tapes in my house, and they started to grow mold.
Oh no, yeah.
And then I went to USC and UCLA. Yeah, we'll take them. And then I go, well, they have mold. They go, nope. And then Snowden Becker got them in the Academy archive.
Oh man.
And then it's a long story, but then it's like, what do you do? Do you bake the mold? How do you get rid of the mold, or do you just transfer the tape and throw the mold tape out?
Oh no. You don't want to bake the mold. That just like spreads it around. There are we have a device around here. We're in the midst of moving. I'd bring it out and do some show and tell, but it's like a thing that people have built where it's like you basically, in a tape machine, you have like a lot of pegs and like graders that move the tape around. Basically, it's like people who have like taken those guides out and like put them on like a little machine. And what you do is you run the tape through it, and then you hold a lint-free cloth that has like alcohol, basically, and you hold it over the tape as it winds through.
You wipe the mold off.
You wipe the mold off, yeah. You don't want to transfer a moldy tape, because then you get mold in your deck, and then suddenly every tape that you play subsequently will get mold.
Wow.
We can do that for some formats. We can do that for half-inch tapes. For other tapes, we've sent them to George Blood in the past, and I guess this is a plug. He's done a good job with that in the past.
George, what's the last name?
George Blood, spelled spelled like blood. And I think he's out in Western Maryland or Pennsylvania. I forget exactly. We just sent him a bunch of stuff, but
wow, really good tip. Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, so tell me something good you never had and you never want.
Something good I never had. I never want. A lot of stuff. I've never wanted to own a house.
Yeah,
I used to at one time, and it was okay, but like I don't know. I like the idea of being. I kind of like the idea of being a renter. Like lately, that's become a thing. Like, poor people, they never get to own a house. Oh, I like the idea of having, like, if something breaks, it's kind of somebody else's problem to fix. And I like the idea that if I want to get out of there, I could just pick up and move without having to go through all this hassle. So I don't know. Maybe that's stability of a certain sort.
Well, that's interesting, because most people, when I say, tell me something good you never had and you never want, if it's good, I want it. And they think it's an unanswerable question. No, and you said a lot of things. Yeah. I mean, most people have trouble coming up with one. So that was good. Just saying a lot of things. Yeah. Okay. Now, if you were in a vat of vomit up to your neck and someone threw a bag of shit at your face, what would you do?
Well, now is this my vomit, or where?
Again, you're answering a question with a question. You've won like 10 times, Dan. And you didn't pick it up as a pattern. Yeah, no one's ever asked us, is it your vomit or not?
Yeah, consideration, quite frankly.
Yeah, again, we'll go up to the top. You put it into the context you want.
Right, yeah.
So what would you do?
Oh man, what would I do? I'd probably duck. I'd probably swim for the nearest shore at my
swim for shore. That's good.
Deal with whatever horrors await me there. Apparently.
Well, you being a lit guy, you'll love this. I asked this woman at the Venice Boardwalk that once, and she goes, "Well, I'd take the velocity of the bag of shit and use it to swoop my way out of the vat of vomit."
Oh man.
And I goes, dude, that is Edgar Allan Poe's Descent into the Maelstrom, which had the huge influence on McLuhan, is that you take the breakdown and turn it into a breakthrough.
Yeah.
And so it was like really good. Okay, a few more and we're out of here. What's the cultural shift you see developing today that inspires you?
Ooh, that inspires me. I like the fact that when I go to rep cinema screenings, it used to be like when I was in New York and I'd go to see, Blowout or Blow Up, whichever the Antonioni movie is, at Museum of Modern Art. It was always like retirees were the only, like I was the youngest one there, and I was not young by any means. And now I've noticed when I go to a lot of rep screenings, it's a lot more people who are younger than me.
Wow. So you mean rep?
I'm the oldest guy there now.
You mean rep is like art cinema?
Art cinema, like old stuff. Yeah. Like I just went to this last Saturday. I went to a double feature of Barbara Stanwyck pre-code films, and
nice.
there were as many people there. Probably the plurality of people there were in their 20s.
Wow, that is encouraging.
So I think it's cool that young people, or at least a sizable cohort of them, are becoming interested in the art of the past, of the recent past. You know, this 20th century, let's say.
Dude, cinema is only 130 years old. It's not that old.
I know.
Well, you know Peter Greenaway?
Oh, sure.
Yeah. Okay. So he's a Finnegan's Wake freak like me, James Joyce. So he said, if the history of literature is this old and the history of cinema is this old, nothing in cinema has ever come even close to what Finnegan's Wake did in literature. And so, you know, I mean, I've studied it, and it's like one of the good ones is the Review of the Clock by Christian Marclay. Mm-hmm. Have you seen that film at all?
I haven't, but I've heard of. I know what
you know about it.
Is all about. Yeah.
The Review of the Clock by Christian Marclay by Zadie Smith is like Finnegan's Wake. No it's kidding. An amazing, yeah, because it is a it's a ridiculous concept in a way, but in another way, it's an amazing film. I've watched a little of it, and you know, he sells his DCPs for $1 million, but he went nuts making it.
Yeah, right. No kidding. Yeah, give the man his money. This okay, I hadn't heard of that. I'll have to check out the Zadie Smith review.
Yeah, what I can send to you. What question remains unresolved for you?
What question remains unresolved for me? Where am I going to end up, I guess?
Yeah.
Yeah, what does the future bring? Where am I going to be in? How old am I now? Where am I going to be in 35 years? Where am I going to be when I'm my parents' age?
Right, but you're not insinuating what is going to happen to you after you die. You're saying while you're alive.
Yeah, yeah. It's yeah. Yeah, I don't know. It's I'm again, as I'm getting to the point now where I have been for a while, where I can look at where I am at my age and sort of think like, well, when my parents were my age, what were they doing? What was their life like? And that's been going on long enough, and just noticing how the world has changed since they were 50, the age I am now. And you know, even in that relative, not that long ago, but a lot of the sort of certainties that I had growing up in their world, I'm seeing now, like, that's just not it anymore. And so now I'm thinking like, well, wait a second, what's gonna, you know, if it changed that much between when they were 50 and they were, you know, 82 as they are now, you know, what, you know, what's going to happen to me? Like the boomers world, essentially, that I grew up in, and that a lot of my sort of sensibilities were formed in. I'm thinking about like, well, how long are those sensibilities going to be good for me? Like, how long is that going to be something, you know, how long is it going to be before I just have to give up and be like, I don't understand any of this. I don't know what's going on. Yeah. So maybe it's not even where will I end up, but like, how will I eventually become unequipped to deal with reality?
Yeah. How you changed it, where to how.
Yeah.
That's,
I feel like I know it's going to happen, but you know,
that's the beauty of life, is we don't know what's going to happen even the next second. But Paul Krasner nailed it. He says, I only believe in reincarnation in one of my past lives. So it's sort of like another friend said, whatever happens to you after you die is what you believe will happen to you.
Okay.
So it's just like that same applies. Whatever you believe, like, will you be able to manifest where you'll be in 20 or 30 years?
Yeah.
how much will you be able to manifest that? Because you've thought, I made the decision to do this and that. Like your two main callings leads right to the next question. How has writing shaped your behavior, and how has being an archivist shaped your behavior?
How does writing shape my behavior? It's maybe I think a little bit more disciplined, a little bit more sort of regular, I guess, in a sense. Like in that I have to sit down and do it every once in a while, and I have to sort of be honest about what I'm, when I'm going over something like, oh, this isn't very good, or I don't know what I'm talking about, or so it's I guess sort of kept up whatever the good habits I had as a very diligent student, and maybe instead of change my behavior, it's kept it from backsliding into some sort of maybe lazier tendencies that I might otherwise have indulged. And then being an archivist, how does it change my behavior? Well, a lot of ways. It's made me a lot more social. It's made me a lot more, more social, more sort of outgoing, and I don't know. It before I had this, I was really kind of not doing much with myself. I was like, I lived alone, lived out in the middle of nowhere, didn't keep up like social ties very well. And here, because it's such a small field and it's, relatively small community of people, it's easy to sort of make that your social life, which maybe is entirely healthy in some ways, but I don't know. It's gotten me this far. So.
No, we're making a documentary on archiving right now, and everybody I meet in the archiving world is extremely exciting and fun, and it's like what a world.
Yeah,
and especially bringing up Stephen Parr. I'm so sorry I flubbed that. I thought Stephen Parr was just so special. But you brought up that word social, and there was something in your Cine Club podcast that made me write this line down. And I'm curious if you can remember the connection. It's Marshall McLuhan. He probably said in the 70s, he said, North Americans have a peculiar bias. They go out to be alone and they go home to be social.
Yeah.
Any thoughts on that? And do you know how that connects with something you said in the Cine Club podcast?
Man, I can't imagine what I would have been getting on about at that part. Go out to be social, or go out to be alone. Yeah, I find I tend to do that. I tend to. McLuhan's got me pegged. I do. If I'm leaving the house, it's often to go write, or to go on a research trip or something. Or if I'm not doing one of those, I'll just go for like long walks around. My wife goes out of town a lot for work, and usually I'll just, instead of going home, I'll just sometimes I'll just walk home. I'm about 7 miles from my house here at the office, and I'll just be like, well, she's not going to be there. The cats have food. I'm just going to walk, for the next several hours.
Yeah.
No, I guess I do that. There's something about wanting, I guess, a need I have to kind of interact with the outside world, maybe like completely on my terms, all by myself, just me against the world, and go home to socialize. Yeah, I guess maybe. Yeah. I tend to go to people.
Did you get that from the way your parents raised you, or on your own, that I can just walk for these 7 miles and be on my own? That whole, how you explain that sensibility, from the way your parents raised you, or more on your own?
A little bit. My parents are very much, they also instilled, my mom, again, especially, was a big pedestrian. Like we lived in a, fairly small town, and, she always was like, well, if you can walk there, why don't you just walk there? Why drive?
Yeah.
Get some exercise, get out there. And so I kind of, and when I was a kid, of course, I'm, no, I don't want to go. That's a whole, but then like a lot of things, the kids, once you keep doing it, eventually you kind of like, okay, it's kind of nice. But definitely that sort of solitude, I kind of got from them almost in a reaction, just because my childhood was objectively really good. It was objectively 1% of all human history, but I just really hated being a kid. I hated that lack of autonomy. So
Wow.
definitely, like, as once I got out of the house, I definitely, or, you know, even when I was still living there, I could be like, I'm going for a walk. That was like my one excuse
Yeah.
to just get away from people telling me what to do and where to go and all that. So yeah, probably that preference for solitude kind of came from just like, I gotta
Yeah.
stay away, you know.
And that to be a writer too, that you brought that up. But it reminds me of this joke that gets received different ways. The kid goes up to the dad and mom and goes, "Are you guys absolutely sure you won't support me for the rest of my life?" Now, we can laugh, but parents now, they don't laugh. They go, "That's fucking true, man."
You're right. Yeah.
We were like, "Hey, I'm 18 or I'm 16. I'm out of here. Bye." And they're like, "Bye."
Yeah. Yeah. No, that was the thing. I couldn't, I mean, I have a fine relationship with my parents. And again, I grew up just fine, but like, I couldn't wait to get out of there.
Yeah. Okay. Two more and we're out of here. This is Thornton Wilder in 1928. Art is confession. Art is the secret told. But art is not only the desire to tell one's secret, it's the desire to tell it and hide it at the same time. You've laid your cards on the table for over 90 minutes. I'm not insinuating you haven't already answered this. What's it really all about for you?
Man. What's it really all about for me? In terms of my various creative or professional endeavors, or
Yeah, again, you put in the context.
Okay.
Yeah, whatever context you want.
All right. For me, it's about staying busy and staying a student for as long as I can.
Yeah.
Like I said before, a lot of what I've been doing was a way to do the work that of being a student without constantly, being able to make a living. And so I basically, what I try to do with these endeavors is to like sort of make that my classroom, and my library and my student union, and to just keep learning stuff, keep moving along, not get so stuck in, have a routine. I like a routine. Routines are useful, but they're good to support constantly learning, constantly trying to do things with my work that I couldn't do last week. To keep moving, essentially, is it.
Yeah. Well, that goes back to your initial thing, activity. Keep moving. But I'm the same way. I'm always just trying to learn things. I never claim, I've lectured all over the place, but I don't want to say I know anything. I want to keep learning. And that's resonates with what I do. I appreciate that you saying that. What gives you the most optimism?
What gives me the most optimism? What am I optimistic about? I guess that what gives me optimism is that, I don't know. I guess just that the world won't need me after a while. That it's going to go on and forget about me in a while, and that's okay. I don't know why that. For some reason, I think about that, and it. Other people have said that sort of fills them with dread, but I kind of like the idea that the world will keep going on, and I'll be forgotten.
No, then that's beautiful in a lot of ways. I understand what you say, because it's like when they ask Frank Zappa, what's your legacy? Do you want to be ready? He said, no, that's what presidents want. Well, that in a way is saying I've done something, and whether people want to process it. I mean, you've done amazing archiving, and you've done the books, and not their book's going to live on after you. But it's not that you have to think, I hope they don't forget that I wrote that book.
It's there. They can do what they want with it.
Yeah, and that's the great thing about art. Once the artist creates their art, it doesn't matter after that. The user is the content. the user of the book can do, or the film can do whatever they want with it.
Yes.
It's, yeah. And that's beautiful, because the first question I asked is, what's the best thing for a human being? Wilhelm Reich said the best thing for a human being is another human being. And the last question I asked is, what gives you the most optimism? And that's the question they asked Groucho Marx at the end of his life. And he said, other people. So it's sure been fun spending this time with another person. Really intriguing, Dan. Love this time together. Thank you so much.
Absolutely.
And and just in closing, I'm very curious. I'm always wanting to interview people. And your partner there told me, is Tim Weinberg still alive?
Tom Weinberg? Yeah, very much so.
Yeah. Because I would love to interview him if you think he would do this sort of thing. And the other guy I really want to interview is Tom Palazzola. Do you know him well?
Oh, yeah. Yes, I know Tom. I know both Toms. Yeah.
Yeah, both Toms. We'll give them a nudge and say, because I've sent them in email invites, and they're probably too busy or whatever, but give them a nudge if you feel they would be fun, because Tom was a big impact on us in the Ann Arbor Film Festival.
Yeah. Oh, right. I suppose. Yeah.
When he was showing those Nazi documentary parade films, we were like, whoa.
Yeah. No, I think I'm going to see them both at our Christmas party here in a week or two. So I'll put a bug in their ear.
And anyone else in your world, please. There was some guy written up in the New York Times the last couple of days, a big archivist. Did you see that article?
No. What was it?
Look it up. I'll try to send you it, but I haven't read it. I ripped it out of the paper so I could read it. But it's always fun when archivists get the press,
Yeah.
because they're doing something that's so important,
Yeah. No, it's we became archivists. If we were seeking publicity, we wouldn't have picked a job where you stuck in your shelves all day. So
yeah. In actuality, I didn't ask you the archive question. Could you do one more?
Sure.
Okay. The word archive comes from the 1400s.
Okay.
And it is meaning keep safe, free from harm.
Right.
Then 200 years later, it's really what we think of. Records or documents preserved as evidence. But Charles Baudelaire said, if you try to make a statement long, deep, and rich, it will age very fast. If you try and only own the day you're talking, it will last forever. So, it's like David Lee Roth said, here today, gone later today. Why do we want to collect all this crap when the point of life is to be here now? That's the Eastern philosophy, live in the moment. And, Wyndham Lewis really nailed it. He said, artists live in the moment and write a detailed history of the future. So, I'm for archiving, as you've heard me say, but I'm also I love the futurist art movement that said, destroy all the libraries and museums. Like, I go to a library every day, literally, but I do like that they thought that up. And so many people I interview, Dan, I will say this question to them: do you have plans for your own archive? And most of them go, I should, but and some of them go, yeah, I'm stored at Yale or whatever. But the real question is archiving more innate or more invented?
Ooh, I think the desire to preserve stuff is innate, to preserve the traces of the past. Again, even for practical reasons, like our friend the cave painter who wants to, it's like, this is our creature that we would go for. So I think there is something to that. People are I guess I have met people who are curious about history or their origins or anything like that. But I do think that a lot of people feel like they need to have some sort of wider story that they're a part of, or some sort of just, even some myth or something like that they can sort of find their place in. So I would say that the sort of historical consciousness is something that's innate. Archiving is invented. Archiving is just a means to get there.
It's just the means. Yeah. Yeah.
Archiving is just, don't don't leave your tapes out in the sun. Don't let them get moldy. That's all archiving is. Put a sticker with a number on it.
Put a sticker with the number. And then this museum I work with that documents the history of our town, Venice, California, Venice Heritage Museum. One of the guys goes, I hate those people. They're so precious. They bring out the white gloves and go, okay. And then it just goes into this, cement building and has no access. I mean, the important thing I think Media Burn has some, what you guys, you're like an open archive, aren't you? Some sort. You're not.
Yeah, no, it's archiving without access is wasting everybody's time. And yeah, we're lucky in that the sort of technology that we're lucky and unlucky. When it comes to videotape preservation, when it comes to film preservation, you can preserve film, right? They still have film reels from the 20s that you can still project if you wanted to. You should, but I mean, they're there. But so the idea there is to preserve the object, the actual film reel. But like a videotape, this high 8 tape right here, that this tape, no matter how well we store it, no matter how well we treat it, anything else, the tape itself is going to decay, and the machine that you use to play the tape, this specific format, is going to break and it hasn't been manufactured for 40 years. They're not making new parts. So the thing about videotape preservation is you can't, in contrast to film, you can't preserve the object, right? These are all tapes that this is from a stack sitting right in front of me that I've digitized, then I'm just going to toss them.
Are you really going to toss them? But how do we know? Because I have my first audio cassette from the late 60s, and I have it digitized, and it's on archive.org, but I think you could still play it. How do we know that will not last longer than?
I know exactly why, because I get this is the high 8 format, the 8mm tape that was kind of big in the 90s. I know because whenever I get a collection of tapes and I see a bunch of these, half of them just straight up don't play.
Oh my God. So we know from experience, absolutely, magnetic tape basically lasts about how long?
It depends, but it depends on the brand and the format and the stock and everything like that. But like, probably nothing in this room will be able to be played in 20 years. Well, again,
the magnetic tape came out in the late 60s for me. How many years do you think that would play? 50 years, 20, 30? Just a guesstimate.
Again, probably 20. But again, the other thing that's going to be just as important is that you're not going to have a device to play it on, because those are going to break in ways that we, again, don't know how to fix.
But
you get it from both angles.
But Snowden, or one of them, told me you have to take your hard drive and check it once a year and replace it every 10 years.
That's probably about right. Yeah. I mean, there's no hard and fast, but like, yeah, your hard drive could break. Make several copies of everything on your drive. Yeah, it's just the war against entropy. And yeah, the thing about videotape is you can't preserve the tape. You can preserve the stuff on it.
Yeah.
Which means that you have a lot of digital files, which is good for media burn, because we have all those digital files. We can then just put them all online, which is what we do. We've got almost everything we've.
But will they ever turn the internet off?
Well, I don't know. Maybe. Well, I don't know. The internet.
I like that. Maybe.
I mean, it might just break itself at this rate. But
and then everything. Okay, here's a good question. I've had 800 interviews on a YouTube channel. I have my interviews elsewhere too. My audio cassettes are in. David at University of Santa Barbara, he's got my audio. Anyways, he stores audio cassettes, and he has all the pixel. So he's in a professional, climate controlled cement building, blah, blah, blah. But should I worry about those 800 on YouTube? If they shut YouTube down, do they all disappear?
I mean, you shouldn't rely on any commercial service as like your only like backup. Like, you should keep stuff in multiple different areas. Like all this stuff behind us that we've digitized, we've got it all on drives here. We've got a set of mirrored drives in another location. Yeah. We've got some of it is over at Chicago backed up. Right. So like, and especially, yeah, like a commercial service. Yeah. What if YouTube goes out of business? You know, what if, you know, this happens, or what if they, and this is a problem with like different file formats too, because like, that's why you want to never use a proprietary file format. Because they could just stop supporting it. And when I was in college in the 90s, I wrote all of my papers on this program called ClarisWorks, which was Apple's answer to Office at that time. And ClarisWorks, they stopped supporting that in, I don't know, the 90s. So like now I can't access it. Those are gone forever. So it's.
But can you ask AI to create it for you again?
I don't know about that.
but what's your advice? Take the 800 interviews on YouTube on my channel, and is it hard to just dump them over to archive.org or somewhere?
Yeah, I would at the very least like whatever medium, whatever file you're making right now. Are you just live streaming to YouTube?
Nope, it's just the easiest thing is I turn on the button and it goes to, we're on live on YouTube, and when I shut it off, it's on YouTube. That's the only copy.
I would see. I don't mess around with YouTube too much. So I'm not sure how the interface works. But if there's some way to like download a file, like an MP4 or MKV file from YouTube, it's your thing, and like put those all on a drive, and then like back up those drives and give them to somebody. Put them up on archive.org. Yeah, that's a great solution. Put them.
Sounds like too much work, Dan.
It is. Yeah,
it's a lot of work. Yeah, can you just go and go whoop? But I mean, here,
essentially, but yeah, it takes a while.
Here's the other funny thing. I've dumpster dove Emerson's poetry book. It's over 100 years old, mint condition with a leather copy. No cat poop or anything on it, out of a fucking garbage bin. And here's Mallarmé's great quote. Everything in the world exists to end up in a book.
I agree wholeheartedly.
I know that's a funny thing. You're a video guy and a film guy, and you're like more a book guy. So you're right up my alley.
The best thing I ever found in the dumpster was in the reel of 5,000 films. Are you familiar with? You're familiar with Weekend, Le Weekend, the Godard film?
Yeah.
And you know how it starts? What's the very first thing you see on screen?
Yeah.
Is the letter.
Well, remind me.
It's a film by Jean-Luc Godard, Le Weekend, a film found in a garbage bin, and and was actually found in a garbage bin.
Oh, wait a minute! Godard starts that?
Yeah.
Oh my! I didn't know that. I gotta look that up.
Yep.
What's the name of the Godard film again?
Weekend.
Weekend. It's the title says found in a.
It's like the opening credits. It says a film found in a garbage bin or something like that.
Yeah.
Whatever the French word for garbage bin is.
Oh, that is good. I need that too, really bad.
I'm very sad I didn't get to meet Godard. I think he would have cracked up if I had told him.
Oh God, he's the godhead when it comes to talking about film. And you watch those interviews with him when he's 90, and he's still, the great lines I repeat of his is, Hollywood films are just documentaries of actors acting.
Yeah, absolutely. He's right.
Pretty dang accurate.
Yep.
Well, it's sure been a delight, Dan. Thank you so much for your time and energy. And even though I'm going to hit the end broadcast button, I hope this never ends and we can keep talking forever and ever.
Absolutely. All right. Talk to you later.
Thank you.